Hello, this is Michael Ewer, and I'd like to invite you to the Michael Ewer Show, featuring student hosts and very special guests talking about a variety of interesting topics. You can find us on the Eagle Stream YouTube channel.
Good evening. Welcome to the Michael Ewer Show. We have some very special guests here today, and the show is pretty full. So we're going to do stuff just a little teeny bit differently. And first of all, we're going to start with Valentin Hernandez Martinez, who actually has met our speaker once, and he wants to say a few things to Professor Flowers.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Valentin Hernandez Martinez. I'm an engineering student at Wake Tech. I'm in my second semester, and I'm also the vice president of the History Club, so I'm kind of involved in this kind of activities. And yeah, as Mr. Ewer said, I had the opportunity, I was lucky to meet Professor Flowers last semester, and it was through a meeting that Wake Tech organized, and it was really cool because like we got to talk about the whole things that are happening in the community right now about science, technology, career opportunities, all of that. So it was wonderful. And like for the audience, I just want to say that please listen to what Professor Flowers have to say, and he's going to contribute a lot to the community, and he's also a very intelligent man. So we're lucky to have him as a guest today.
Thank you, Valentin.
Mr. You're muted.
Thank you. I was gonna say I also got to meet Professor Flowers last semester, and I did get to see his presentation, and I know it's going to be excellent. And one thing he talked about that caught my attention was he talked about Ron McNair, and Dr. Ron McNair is a graduate of North Carolina A&T, and he is an astronaut. Well, he was an astronaut. He perished in the Challenger that came down in fire, but A&T has an engineering building named after him. And I know you'll talk about him. And he taught martial arts, and he played jazz, and I got to meet him. So that was a great opportunity. And so I connected with Professor Flowers because we had that in common. Jerry, if you want to, can you pull up his website for 1 minute? And if not, I'm sure he'll get to it later. All right. So Jerry, okay. So anyway, this is the website for Professor Flowers' organization, which is Black STEMology. And if you could just across the top, Jerry, you're looking through, that's good. And just click across to about, and then we're just going through the different sections just to let the audience know that all those things are there. And then they got a lot of cool stuff. And then the next one, and all of this is going to be put in the chat. We just want the audience to know that it's going to be there. And I know that Professor Flowers is going to talk about all that more. And the last one that I'm going to get you to tip on, other than the STEM crawl, is going to be this manifest. And that's the last one I want you to show. And then just please put the entire thing in the chat. And now if we could have Jenny, because Jenny is awesome with DEI. And I went to a jazz concert today that DEI was sponsoring, and it was awesome. And y'all also were sponsored for the African American Cultural Celebration and for Wake Tech's Black History. So tell us a little bit about DEI.
So the DEI Council is for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the main focus is to make sure that all students are feeling seen and heard, and more awareness is spread about cultures and different kinds of people. As you said, DEI is currently doing a whole month of different Black history focused events. They are on Extra, so if you want specific times and dates, definitely go there. I know the next one that's coming up is the Art of Storytelling Through Hip Hop on February 22nd at the Scott Northern campus in Building E. And every Friday, there's going to be some HBCUs and for students to learn about, especially if you're transferring soon. So they have it set up for every Friday this month for some HBCU events. And yeah, so we're super excited. We did have that jazz events today. And a lot of students were super excited for it. And earlier we had, on February 7th, we had More Than Skin Deep, which was on Teams. And I think there might be a recording of it flowing somewhere. If there is, I'll definitely share it. But yeah.
Thank you. And now we're going to do a video, Care Center. And when it's over, Valentin and I will be gone. And then Damien and Taj will be taking over as a student host. And Professor Flowers, you can go through your presentation. But thank you again for coming.
The Care Center is here to provide wraparound services for our students for when out-of-the-classroom challenges arise. I'm Mike Coleman, Dean of Student Engagement and Impact here at Wake Tech.
My name is Magdalene Christ, and I'm a student at Wake Tech in the Associate of Science program. The Care Center at Wake Tech has been a great hub for resources
such as food, success coaching, technology support, brief mental health counseling, emergency financial assistance, and transportation assistance.
I've gotten a lot of great help with questions and just navigating Wake Tech. If I'm ever having a tough day or a tough time in class, the student success coaches are always there to help me whenever I need it.
Students can connect with us by visiting one of our locations, online at our website, or by email.
So to my fellow students, if you ever need help with anything, the Care Center is your one-stop shop, and I highly recommend.
And most importantly, we are here to support our students and make sure that they soar.
All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you for the video. Thank you for the Care Center. Make sure you guys check that out per usual. We're going to go ahead and start off with some introductions. I'd actually like to start off with Mr. AJ Flowers here, Doc Scholar, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself as the star of the show.
Sure, Damien. My name is Alex Flowers, also go by as Professor Doc Scholar. I'm the CEO, founder of BrainSTEMology. I've been in biotech, chemical sciences, clinical research for the past 20 years. So my goal is actually to help recruit and educate more youth about opportunities within STEM, especially for minority students.
Wow. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to get to all into that throughout your slideshow and such. I'll start off with myself as another introduction. My name is Damien Johnson, everyone. A host on the show. It's my second semester here as a Wake Tech student, a major in the associates in engineering and such. And I kind of come up on this show to obviously interview people like Mr. Flowers to get an idea of where they fall in the community, how we can all be a part of what they're a part of, and just to kind of inquire about what they might be doing. But I'm also up here with Taj, who is a host show of mine. So Taj, if you don't mind.
Yep. Thank you, Damien. And like he said, I am his fellow co-host. And unlike him, this is my last semester at Wake Tech, so I'll be heading out soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a student associate in science, and I just want to say it's great to be able to come on here and interview someone like you, Professor Flowers. I checked out your website, and I mean, it was incredible. I listened to that 5-minute piece that you had on the front page, and it reminded me of, I don't know if you know who Nujabes is. He was a Japanese DJ, very popular back in the 90s, but it was a similar style. And I'm very interested to hear more about BrainSTEMology and exactly how you created that. So I'm going to hand it over to Jenny now. You're muted, Jenny.
I would say, Jenny, you might be muted, I think.
I'm Jenny Aguilera. I'm in my second to last semester-ish at Wake Tech. I'm a student government senator chair along with DEI council student representative. So I'm thoroughly involved around campus, and I'm studying to be a biology teacher. So I thought it was super cool how you associated parts of the brains, the different parts of you called your STEM experts and health professionals the midbrain, which is, responsible for vision and hearing and that kind of stuff, and it just goes down. I thought that was super cool. I recognized it immediately, and I was like, that's so cool. I just learned about it, and it was very brilliant. So I'm so excited to learn more about the entire program.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Yep. And so
I guess, Jerry, you can go ahead and get those slides up. We got to give some context for the viewers. All right, Mr. Flowers, you can take it away from here. Show us what we're looking at.
All right, sure. So this is the introduction. A lot of people don't understand what BrainSTEMology is, so I call it the Miseducation of BrainSTEMology since I was a big Lauryn Hill's fan. So you want to cue the music?
He may or may not be cueing the music yet.
It's cool.
Yeah.
What song were you gonna play? It was a Lauryn Hill song. So which one was it?
Oh, actually, this wasn't going to be a Lauryn Hill song, but it was going to be an instrumental that would just give you a little background about me. So I said, I can't complain the time it costs to get a bachelor's when my family worked 40 years for free just for their masters. So matter of fact, I'm chained to two behind my farm D. Let me explain the difference between me and you. See that judge say affirmative action. It makes my Cecil few. So when it comes to these grades, get these A's to prove the who. If this state was like the boot, this whole point of mine have been moot. When it came to see you, I would have went to FAMU. So next slide, let's get it.
That was fire. That was good. That was good.
Let's get it. So I'm actually from Chicago, and I actually stayed about 4 or 5 blocks away from Carter G. Woodson, the library that's named after him. Within my time of just growing up in Chicago, I learned that I had so much more in common with him than just the location of my family heritage. Next slide. So my sister and mom always said, we love to story tell, and a picture can tell a lot of words. So it actually, like I said, started back in Chicago. I was studying on the bus. You can hit the next. It's going to pop up like a little story. I was sitting on the bus. I was actually studying for anatomy exam. Like you said, Taj, I'm close to the end of graduation, and I wanted to do well. So I'm sitting on the back of the bus by myself. A guy gets on the bus. He sits probably 2 seats in front of me. He sneezed. I said, God bless you. And immediately he turned around. He said, I don't know why I'm telling you this. I probably have a son about your age. I just did heroin in front of you, and I need to get off this stuff. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to get off. And I immediately was floored because I'm like, this is my birthday. It's February 22nd. Nobody told me happy birthday. And now this man hits me with this deep confession about his life. And I said, okay, next. Might pop up. All right, so his name is Tony. Let's hit the next one. I had an anatomy professor, and he told me, once you think about your purpose, because I always was taught that, science and theology didn't go together. Either you believe or you didn't believe, especially when it came to evolution. So I really was drawn about what's my purpose? What am I here on earth to do? Next. So this anatomy professor, as I said, you can actually do both. He encouraged me to do both. And it was my chemistry professor that at the same time introduced me to summer research programs, which I never thought about even doing. I never heard of summer research programs. And he submitted my application to Northwestern University. And when I was at Northwestern University, I was the only student that was actually invited to come back the second year. And this was students from Yale, from Harvard. I'm from a real small liberal arts school called St. Xavier University that not many people know about. So hit the next one. They actually invited me the second time to come back, second summer. I actually learned how to develop peptide sensors for lead. So I was like, oh, wow, lead is in our paint. They're on the tracks. They're in everything. They cause neurological disorders. It leads to Parkinson. It leads to Alzheimer's. Wow, this is something that I can actually get behind, and I don't necessarily want to go to medical school. Maybe I want to go to pharmacy school so I can learn about these different medications and how they work in the body. So next slide, next part. So that introduced me to an actual success program. And advisor. They told me, "Do you know about the Ronald E. McNair Scholars Program?" And I was like, "No, never heard of it before." This counselor was like, "You need to apply to this program, and I believe it's going to open up doors for you." So I get in 2003 at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center in Memphis. I'm studying call pain inhibitors. It's actually what my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. This was a new drug that researchers were working on to try to solve Alzheimer's. So I'm like, now I'm on purpose. I feel like I'm actually contributing to my community, but also to my parents and to my grandparents. Next one. Since my mentor was actually African American, he was actually first African American that I studied with, and he was actually over the graduate program at UT Memphis, and he introduced me to Dr. Brown, who was also from Chicago, and our schools, high schools, are rivals, and they wanted to connect us because of that relationship. But he was the first person to tell me about this idea of every drug is not going to be right for everyone. It's not going to be a one size fit all. It's going to be called personalized medicine, especially when it came to cancer research. It's all personalized. So I said, I need to learn about pharmacogenomics. Next slide. So I went into college on first year academic probation. Unlike many of my peers, I had no idea that I was going to be able to turn my liabilities actually into my asset. So before I left college, I left with leadership opportunities, I left with scholarship, and I left with research. So this first picture is actually me with my girlfriend. She's on that far left side. She actually became my wife, became an attorney, but she helped me start up this honor society, and it was the first national academic honor society on our campus, and it was predominantly founded by African Americans. So I was very proud of that opportunity to use my science background to help me to bring about leadership here on campus. That second opportunity opened up for Who's Who. I was selected by my professors to actually see if I can actually if they can actually select me as a student to be for the Who's Who. I never thought about being in Who's Who. I didn't feel like I was smart enough to be in Who's Who. So that was one scholarship achievement that I made in college. And then the last one was research. I went into college, like I said, not thinking about doing research at all. And now I have the opportunity to do research at one of the biggest universities within genetics at University of Nebraska. So I always saw them, playing football, but I never thought about going there and doing research. So I was really proud of the opportunities of being able to turn what I considered my liabilities into my assets. But everything is built on relationships. So next slide. While I was at the University of Nebraska, I studied in a research center that was called the George Beadle Center. I had no idea really who George Beadle was necessarily, besides the building named after him. But I applied to what was called a Prep Scholars Program that it was geared towards helping minority students pursue graduate school or doctoral training programs. And one of the individuals that I ended up interviewing with her name was Dr. Lucia Rothman Dennis. She actually knew Dr. George Beadle because he was a Nobel laureate while he was at the University of Chicago, although he went to undergrad at Nebraska. So when she heard that I was studying and did research in a center named after him, she educated me about who he was. And I was just like, wow, I never knew. So as you can see, this is a much younger looking Alex. I had some twists back then. That's when I had some butters, right? But in my lab was this child prodigy. His name is Sho Yano. Now he's Dr. Sho Yano. But Sho was the youngest person to be to receive his PhD and MD at the University of Chicago. He received it at 18. I'm in the lab being trained with him running northern blots, western blots, and he was 13 years old, teaching me how to run these very extravagant experiments. And I was just floored that I had this opportunity, but everything was really being built on relationships. Next slide. So as I said, all of these relationships open up for me to do research. So every university that I went to and had a relationship with, they actually wrote an article about me. So this first one is called Someone to Watch. That's at my undergrad, St. Xavier University. I became an ORISE fellow. That picture is with me inside the chemical engineering department at the US EPA's office. So I'm learning with their chemical scientists on how these different drugs end up in our groundwater and how they can, cause just problems within our health, within our drinking water. This middle picture is actually when I went on to earn my master's degree at Roosevelt University, and I was one of the first students selected for their Minority Health International Research Training Program at the University of Cambridge. I never never thought that one day I would be studying at Cambridge. This little bottom picture is at Cal State Fullerton University. They actually did an article on their website of me there in the lab right at the University of Cambridge. I ended up getting co-authorship with the researchers that I worked with in that lab. I was only there for about 3-4 months, but was able to get first co-authorship with my peers because I helped design one of the experiments that led to solving the problem. And then last but not least, once I decided what school I wanted to pursue pharmacy at Campbell University is when I came up with this idea of BrainSTEM. And when I sat in the class, I realized that there weren't many African American students, regardless if they were male or female. And our teacher played a hip hop artist rapping about neurobiology, and a light bulb went off with me within seconds. And I said, that's it. That's the idea of how we can get more minorities interested in STEM. Next slide. While I was in my doctorate program, everything went up and down. I had good moments, I had bad moments. As you can see, I was very determined to do well in STEM for my family, for my heritage, and for myself. But on my last rotation, on my P4 year rotation, I learned from my peers that I had about 30 to 40 interviews for residencies, for fellowships. I was like in the top of that graduating class for interviews at it's called a.k.a. mid-year. It's the largest pharmacy conference that they have every year, where students, postdocs are trying to get positions once they leave pharmacy school. And I had about 30 or 40 interviews with the top tier programs. But then within 6 months of getting that opportunity to interview with all these top programs, I was actually dismissed from my doctorate program. And to make it worse, it was like on my 10th year anniversary out of all days. So I won't ever forget that. And it was with helping the medical team with a patient that was African American, who was male, and he came in with seizure activity. And because I knew his home meds, I worked with this patient prior, I knew how to help him and I knew how to solve that problem. So when my preceptor went to the actual academic deans and to our coordinators and let them know that she was actually going to fail me on my rotation, it took everything within me to not just go crazy, because I knew that I wasn't a failure, and I knew what I contributed. But I went into a very dark space after that rejection and after that failure. And thank God, for my wife, for my family, I was able to come out of it. I was able to look back. And this is the result of that. Me looking back, probably about 4 or 5 months after that rejection, I received an invite from the University of California, San Francisco, to interview for their chief pharmacy officer position. Now, you need a pharmacy degree to even be considered for this position. But because of what I had accomplished in undergrad and graduate and pharmacy school, it made me a top candidate, for this opportunity. And then when I looked at the schools, the universities that reached out to me at that very end, I realized that the top 3 pharmacy schools in the nation, I had relationships with because of what I did in school. So I was able to look back and say, you know what, God, I never failed. You never failed. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to know I was good enough. I didn't necessarily have to get the opportunity. I just wanted to know I was good enough. Next slide. So as I said, this was becoming now all inspirational to be able to share with other students about how to pivot and how to come back from when you have to pivot. So Voyage Rally wrote a story about me. In this article, I explained about BrainSTEMology, how it got started. Really, it got started when I was in pharmacy school. Next slide. And the concept was, let me bring something to the table to help address a problem. We don't have enough diversity in STEM, especially within the health sciences. So my idea of BrainSTEMology evolved. It became more than just health sciences. It became clinical research. It became biotech. It became biopharma. And because of the experiences that I had, I felt that I was in a space where I could actually bring everyone together. So as Jenny said, it was based off the brainstem. It was me actually using it as an acronym to say, this is going to be how we're going to address this problem. I want to bring artists, I want to bring the students, and then I want to bring STEM experts all in together to create music. And now we bring in diversity. Now we creating on the spot. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be something that's different that has never been done before, especially as what I wish I had when I was in high school. So next slide. So as I said, the mission was to help to address a real problem within academia, and that's the lack of diversity that we see in STEM, and that's across the board. But I knew it really goes to having students able to communicate and to articulate STEM content to their peers without the fear. And if we can address that early on, then more likely they'll think about going into STEM careers. Next slide. So in developing a curriculum, I thought about, this have to be organic. You can't feel forced. It can't feel like it's just traditional. This have to be out of the box. And by bringing students, artists, STEM experts in together to make a difference, now we can actually bring a curriculum that challenge them to learn the information, to be able to interpret the information and then express it. And hip hop is that thing. It's a universal language, just like STEM. Hip hop is global, just like STEM. So in those aspects, this is what makes the curriculum of BrainSTEMology different than others. And so last but not least, we end up bringing BrainSTEM through Manifest. So we created the first Juneteenth celebration. My wife brought several organizations within our area to give back to our community. And we did it through Juneteenth, and we wanted to do it through STEM and through music and through art. So we called it Manifest. And so my idea was to have a cipher, to bring a cipher of professors showing what's the idea behind BrainSTEMology. So next slide. All right, we're going to play this piece. This will be the capstone project that students would actually complete in our program of BrainSTEM. Let's play it so you can get an idea. Yep, there you go. It should be coming. It just take a little minute.
You guys feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat for Mr. Flowers here about BrainSTEMology, of course. I'll have my own questions, but we'll try to hold them until the end while Jerry tries to get this video going. But you've had an interesting journey so far. I'm really sorry. I know I came to you beforehand when we talked about how your whole postdoctorate, or sorry, not postdoctorate, but your whole doctorate experience and how that ended was so untimely and so unfortunate and so unjust. And I'm sure there's several people out there who will be able to probably feel that. And I'm sure that's
Definitely.
probably why you started this whole thing, to show that type of relationship as well, and that you can still be successful even after the failures. I think that's really important. What's the word for it? Important message.
To have resilience.
Yeah, you have resilience,
resistance,
message, perseverance. To always keep going, keep striving. I think that's definitely important, especially as college students. We face a lot of our own struggles.
Sure.
And some of us come from, in college, everybody's coming from such different backgrounds. It really seems like he might have an issue playing. So if you don't mind, we probably will have to go past it.
Yeah,
No
and I just wanted to say to Jerry that the video should be on YouTube if that would
Yeah,
work.
it's on YouTube if you can't see it from there.
Just type in
And
the same title and you'll find it on YouTube.
I would say, yeah, and while you type that in, we can honestly keep just talking. Like I said, perseverance, it's something that you have to definitely keep in mind as a college student. You're going to get some of your hardest classes, especially on your, your third year, fourth year, things like that. And going through your master's, going through your doctorate, it's like we believe we have to go through all these stages to get to these jobs or careers, and then we'll be successful. But the path isn't always, it's not always like this. It might curve, it goes everywhere, and you are a good example of how that path might curve and still end up here.
And that goes back to Carter G. Woodson. So he's the only individual whose parents were enslaved that went on to earn a doctorate degree. So you can't use, as a student, it feels so easy to use what are your barriers to say, well, I can't do it or I shouldn't do it. But instead, he pressed forward and he did it. So with BrainSTEMology, I had to remind myself, I didn't go into a doctorate program just because I want to earn a doctorate. I can create a doctorate. BrainSTEMology is my doctorate. One day, somebody gonna realize that, wow, this student decided that hip hop and STEM are equivalent. That if we utilize these different pedagogies as ways to increase student engagement, we can create a whole new science, a whole different science, a whole new study that you should be able to go to school and get your doctorate in BrainSTEMology. You should be able to get your bachelor's in BrainSTEMology. We always talk about we want well-rounded students. This is a well-rounded student. So you're not just good in science. You're just not good in math. You're good in drawing. You're good in making beats. There's so many things that you can do. And that's what BrainSTEMology is about. And why you said just having the resilience to go through your failures, but look at your failures in a different way, different perspective.
And so it's BrainSTEMology. I don't know if you've already gotten through it. So it's brilliant rhymes, brilliant rhymes, academic in nature, applied, and then obviously STEM, obviously, right?
Incorporating applied science, technology,
science,
engineering,
yep,
and mathematics content. Yep, you
so,
on it, bro.
So I'm trying to see how that all works in a curriculum sense. Like, it's great. I see the idea. How do you do all this physically? How do you bring all these people together and mix their ideas, mix their creativity, and get their juices flowing to promote learning, education, and diversity as well in their thoughts?
Sure. Unfortunately, you have been able to see it in a cipher, but what I did last year is had a course with students at NC State University. These were high school students, and during COVID, I presented what was called hip hop pharmacology. That's a play on, we know when we look at different album covers, when we look at different content within hip hop, they discuss a lot of different drugs, regardless if they're illicit drugs or prescribed drugs. They're talking about them. So what I had the students do is actually, let's go to your favorite artists. Let's look at some of the drugs that they might have mentioned in that song, and let's look at the content, the lyrical content. Did they describe how this drug worked? Let's talk about nomenclature. Now let's talk about mechanism of action. Now let's talk about street names. Let's connect it now to something that you're already interested in, that you have a relationship with. And then let's break down the verses. Did they really educate you on what this drug did, or was it just rhyming words? Because sometimes they do that too. They're not really giving you the information. But for example, in KOD, J. Cole talked about pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics in his bars. Like he talks about it in such a very by being a wordsmith, he's showing you his ability to understand it, these very challenging concepts. But in the classroom, they can be very challenging. But if it's applied to music and you can actually see what they're trying to convey to you through metaphors, now you might be a little bit more interested in doing it. So I gave the students the opportunity to hear this presentation, to now work with your student, work with your team. You created your own name, you created your own squad. Y'all got together and y'all wrote bars based off of how COVID worked, how the vaccine worked. And even share about your mental health, maybe some things that you went through that's personal, to your family, how it affected you through that school year. And then at the end, we did a cipher. So we had hip hop artists to work with you with your bars, because we're not doing cat, sat, hat, rat bars. We talking real lyricism in this program. But altogether, as you said, this is giving the information to the students. This is allowing the students to analyze, to articulate, to synthesize the information and share it within a safe space with their peers. So you can say either I can do this by myself or I can do it as a group. And I'm telling them, let's work as a group, because in STEM, it's all about collaboration. Nobody's on an island by themselves. It's great to have personal achievement goals that you make, but it's so much better when you actually doing it for someone else bigger than yourself. And like I said, that relates back to Carter G. Woodson. What he did as far as helping to educate us about minorities who were making advancements within technology and engineering and making patents back in the late 1800s. It wasn't just for African Americans. It was for Caucasians. It was for everyone. So it really elevated everyone's understanding about their ability to give back to society. And that's what really BrainSTEMology is meant to do.
I want to say that I think it's so, because I went through your website, as I said, and I read through your mission of historic preservation, education enrichment, and community engagement, and to have seen the classes that you've done and how you're encouraging young students, high school students, when they're in such a vulnerable state, they're being pushed into, college or working, and it's one or the other. There's no break to figure out who you are, if you want to go to college, if you want to be an entrepreneur and do your own thing. So to start engaging them already is to set them up for success, and to give them the opportunity to see you and your success, and how there's not just one route. As Damien had said, it's not linear. And younger students, especially after the pandemic, were lost for a really long time. They didn't know if they wanted to go back to school. And so to see how they then turn into in their careers when they're older, I'm super excited to see the new artists that are going to come out, the innovation that's going to come with them if they do pursue a traditional route through college and a degree. But that isn't the only way to get into your passion in STEM. You can learn biology, physics, chemistry. You can learn that online. You might not have a degree, but you can definitely still learn as much as you're willing to. And I think that's just so great, especially when kids are in such a, I don't want to say, they're like a sponge, and they're malleable. I think that's the word. And so they're, I just think it's so cool, because I'm an educator, so I honestly think it's the coolest things. But I really like watching and reading through your website, and just how it developed, and how it's very true to the mission, and you are very community focused. And for me, working in the nonprofit, I love finding new organizations that bring the classroom and make it accessible, because higher education is so inaccessible. And, us as college students, and we know that the classroom isn't always safe for people who aren't the default. So
Very true.
I really like your mission.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so sorry to cut you all off, but we're going to go to a short break to play a short video about Iconic Bond. So hopefully this one will load now. And as soon as this is finished, we have loads more of questions to ask. So we can see it, Jerry, but we can't hear the volume.
I was about to say, can you guys hear it?
Yeah, no. Just need the volume.
Let's It's usually the hardest part, honestly, getting the sound to like show up through it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird process with this
And the fun thing about Iconic Bond is actually he's a chemist, so he didn't make that name on
I would
on
say that makes
accident.
sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
But I actually wanted to ask you, Professor Flowers. So, hip hop or music on a whole is something that, like you said, the youth can express themselves through. And I'm from Jamaica, and music is big down there. And
Awesome.
so you'll have people my age that they'll drop out of school, they'll just go start making music. They're in the studio or they're on the street making music.
Hmm.
So my question is, how has BrainSTEMology taken the youth off of the street and kind of put them on the right path
Sure.
for keep them out of danger and ensure that they have a better future?
Sure. So as I said, when we did the online version of a cipher with students at NC State, many of them were high school students, and one of the students actually reached out to me that I was able to meet later on, and I've been in contact with him since that day. Now so that's over a year that he will reach out to me and say, how you doing? How's class going? How brainstormology going? So I believe that's the way that you can build organic relationships with people outside of the music. Like you said, within your community, it's all about music, and music bring us together. And once you actually learn that you have a lot of things in common with one another, either artists or styles of music, it brings up that relationship that you now want to learn a little bit more about that individual outside of just music. Now you can have the deep conversations to help them if they are going through things. So that's what I do with my student that we mentor with. I just check in every now and then, bro, how's classes going? Is there anything I can do, I can help you with on your journey outside of just music? But and he don't even like hip hop music, but he loved the fact that we were bringing, something different to draw his interest within the classroom setting.
Yeah, excellent.
And I guess Taj, you asked like how is it, taking kids off the street and putting them in that academic setting. And I almost wanted to jump out there and be like, I could probably answer that. Dr. Flowers, he was talking about some of the I guess just how he would do this physically and how he was connecting it, right? And Kendrick's song and things like that,
Mhm.
and the stuff that he rapped about. It's by adding that, I guess, that personal connection for the students that they can kind of end up relating to. They can end up getting a grasp on. It's something that they're already familiar with, and that's a common like teaching technique that they do in a lot of things. It's like by making yourself more familiar with that topic, you're able to learn it better. And just listening to it, it made me honestly interested. I wanted to learn it myself. I was like, oh, I could easily see, how you bring all this stuff into one, and these people are able to grasp it much easier because it's something that I already kind of have some sense of relationship to or some sense of know about on,
Sure.
So I can easily see, and I'm really excited to see how that works, especially in the future. I think there's a lot of distractions, especially electronically, and through the media and stuff like that. And with the culture that you're kind of bringing into BrainSTEMology, with the kids that you're bringing into it, the youth and stuff, they're growing up with all these either distractions or experiences or relationships that are similar. And by having you there to kind of guide them through those and show them what to focus on and what to grab from all of the nonsense that might be spewed in music these days,
Facts.
and all the negative. I don't know how to really word it, but all the negative emotions and things like
Stereotypes. A lot
that.
of different, negative stereotypes that's within music.
Yeah, things like
Well,
that.
information in general.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think all of that is just it's really cool to see that done. And so that's why what you're doing is such a important thing.
Did you guys watch the 50-year anniversary, the Grammys? Did y'all see the hip hop portion of the Grammys and how it got so many people excited? If you really go back and look at hip hop's history, they were engineers, they were scientists. They call it the elements for a reason. They were taking concepts from the periodic table when they talked about hip hop elements. When you go into a cipher, it looks like going on grand rounds. When you're in the hospital, we get in a circle. People, form a circle and discuss their patient and what they're doing as a team. These same type of concepts are within hip hop culture. So it's just not about the music, even if you don't like a certain style of music. It's the concepts behind it that shows that that these individuals were young and they were thinking inside the box, outside the box, however you want to describe it. But it shows how relatable it is, regardless of one's race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation. We all can communicate. And once I show students that if you love hip hop, you love STEM. And if you love STEM, you actually love hip hop, because many people are very smart, book smart, but you get them in front of actually trying to explain what they know in that book to their peers. A lot of people get scared, get nervous, get choked up. And hip hop, especially getting the cipher, teaches you about public speaking. It helps you, overcome that fear of engaging with the community and engaging with your peers. So these things are really just foundational things that we can do to help students to identify with the culture and see themselves regardless of race.
Yeah, excellent. I 100% agree. I mean, it's just how do you implement, this program now? But we do have some questions in chat, and
Cool.
we want to get through those. So Jerry, if you could put them on screen. So we have one from Mr. Rashid Graham. Hey, Mr. Graham, did at any time through your journey, did you face imposter syndrome?
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. If so,
Yeah.
how did you circumvent it?
Rashid, definitely. I want to say, at the very end of that doctorate program, I am writing a song called Imposter Syndrome, where that's what I'm talking about. That you go through academia, you achieve so much, but then when you start comparing yourself to your colleague, you can start actually making yourself not seem as smart or as educated as someone else. And and life really should not be about comparing yourself to anyone else. You should be comparing yourself to yourself. You're the standard. Did you do better than you did last time? That's the motive. It's about internal validation versus external validations. So yes, when I had the opportunity, when I had that very difficult conversation with that preceptor at that moment, I was challenging myself to say, you know what, I hear you. I'm not going to disrespect you. You're my elder, for one. You do have a white coat on. You do have some letters behind your name. But at the same time, I know what I did. I know what I've accomplished. And you might not know what I accomplished. And it's not really for me to tell you about what I did. It's for you to have that conversation with me, and you'll find out. So in doing so, I can't be arrogant. I can't be arrogant about who I am and what I accomplish. I just have to realize that I'm challenging myself to do better. And can I take this moment and actually pivot and make something better out of it? It's lemons right now, but can I make lemonade? And that was an opportunity where I was put in position to just make lemonade, for sure.
Yep. Martin Luther King Jr. did say, keep moving forward, even if you have to walk, run, or fly. Whatever you do, just keep one step at a time, keep moving forward. So I think you answered that question brilliantly. And this entire show has been great. I mean, your genius in creating this program is just, thank you. We should be the one thanking you. And I hope to see your program in the headlines in a couple of months or maybe in a couple of years down the line.
Well, we do have a call to action for you guys. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. So for a manifest that's coming up for 2023, I'm going to be looking for college students to be interested in our STEM crawl. So what we're doing is actually trying to educate the kids about different careers they can go into STEM outside of just science, but technology, engineering, mathematics in a different way. But I need college students like yourselves to have this discussion with them, sharing your pathway. How did you get to it? Some of the transitions you had to make on your journey. It's so important too, besides just myself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the STEM community, a lot of the times there is a misconception that there's a separation between creativity and STEM subjects. You know, people think that engineering is always just calculated, but you know,
Hmm.
there is so much creativity in every STEM subject, and
For
I feel
sure.
like that's the beauty of what you're bringing together in this program. You're, you know, really combining creativity with STEM.
Mhm.
And it looks like we actually have a bit of the STEM crawl
Yeah.
presents up here.
Yeah. So this is a promo of just some of the students, some of the business owners who were part of STEM Crawl on that day, some of the artists. We did everything from learning how to write poetry, learning how to make beats, learning how to just communicate with business owners if you want to be a boss and be an entrepreneur. Um, Different levels of STEM. Students got a chance to learn, but we made it as a party. You know, it's a networking opportunity workshop, so it's a one of a kind. So we definitely want students to partake in some of the things you're doing. You can see below. This is probably a video showing the Genius Party. They actually did a session teaching the kids how to make beats. So that's engineering. You know, that's audio engineers right there. It's so many different levels you can do within STEM.
That sounds crazy. This is all really cool stuff. Wow.
Appreciate it, Damien.
Of course. No, like appreciate what you're doing for real.
I don't know if you, whenever you have some time, Professor Flowers, I actually have a request for you if you want to check out Nujabees.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like I said, he was a Japanese DJ, a hip hop artist. He passed away, but he was very influential in the hip hop scene.
I'm trying to see if we might have any more questions inside the chat, but if not, I'm sure I don't want to get like obviously too personal, but so as you were kind of going up your uphill climb and such, I realized you found yourself a lot of opportunities and a lot of
Definitely.
doors, and I'm sure these doors didn't just open up for you, you know, for no reason or just because they could. I want to know how you ended up putting yourself in such advantageous positions despite being from the background that you were from.
Being authentic, being genuine. You know, people know when you're really genuine and when you have a purpose, they want to get behind you. So I had my chemistry professor. I said when I first took his test, I failed his test. I probably had the worst F in his test. But the second time, I said, I am not going to get an F again. That's not going to happen. And I took the test. I got the highest A in his class. He wanted to make sure, of course, I didn't cheat. So the third time, he had me sit in front. And it was after that test, and he saw that I scored another A. He said, "What are you doing after? What are you doing this summer?" And I said, "I don't know." And he introduced me to some research. And thankfully, like I said, my wife helped me get over that imposter syndrome, helped me get over the self doubt and to go ahead and apply. And it was really off that relationship that he had with faculty at Northwestern that opened that door. And once I went to Northwestern, which I knew was one of the best universities in Illinois, and I was able to do just as well as the students who came from the bigger name schools, that's when my GPA took off. Once I went back to school, we didn't have a chemical engineering program at St. Xavier University. When I went back, physics wasn't hard anymore. You know, organic chemistry wasn't challenging anymore because now I went into it with the mindset that if I can learn chemical engineering within 8 weeks and present it to graduate students and doctoral students, then there shouldn't be anything I shouldn't be able to accomplish if I put my mind and heart into it. So it's really about building those relationships. It opened those doors, networking, getting mentors, getting mentors, getting mentors. That's how the doors opened up for me for sure.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Flowers. We'll probably go ahead and start doing some closing statements, but we do hope that you can come back to, you know, the Northern Wake campus sometime in the future.
Awesome.
In terms of closing statements, you've kind of said a lot, and I kind of want to tell everybody something that I think that I've taken away from at least our talk here tonight, and some of the other times that I've met you. But for one, perseverance. Just keep striving. Just keep going, like Taj said, and like Martin Luther King said, just a step every day. and you're going to get there. Another thing I think that you've kind of showed me is that in order for, and I kind of want to talk more so to people of color in this sense, in order for people of color or the minority to end up being in such successful spots like we are, we really have to follow our passions and our dreams and our ambitions, you know, to 100%. Don't think of any plan Bs or anything else. It's plan A, or there's no plan at all. And you got to really put all you can into plan A. And I think that's definitely what you did. So I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll let anybody else say their closing statements, of course, but thank you so much, Mr. Flowers.
Yep. And as Damien was saying, it was very good to have you on here. I'm sure the audience watching at home took a lot in from what you were saying. And we hope that you can come on campus again someday. And yeah, I'll let Jenny say what she has to say as well.
Thank you so much for sharing more about this program. I think programs like these are really an essential to building up future generations and to giving them chances to blend all of their interests and not staying in, you know, these A, B, C, D type of jobs. You know, there's so much more out there. And I definitely believe that your program shows that you don't have to sacrifice your creativity or, you know, the humanities for STEM or STEM for humanities. It's all intertwined, and you just really have to find the knack for it. And I'd be super excited, you know, to see more of your work and to see more of your events. And I'm super excited for all of the kids you get to help build into, you know, successful, happy adults. You know, the happier the adults are, the better our society is. So I'm super excited for these programs, and I hope more of these like keep happening and be created, because there's so much you can do with this, and it can touch students all over the country, especially now where we're so separated from each other. You know, community is the biggest part that keeps us going. So I'm super thankful for programs like yours, and it was great talking to you today.
You too. Thank you guys for everything.
And of course, thank you for being here. I also want to thank DEI for sponsoring us and partnering with us today, as well as all the other times we have hosted the show.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank the audience, of course, as well, for being here, coming out today. We should have a lot of Dr. Flowers or Dr. Scholars, you know, links in the chat if you guys would like to reach him. Click on one of those links, go read up about him. You've already seen some of the stuff that he's interested in today, but click on those links. You should be able to find some contact if you want to talk to him. So, Mr. Flowers, do you have any, you know, closing statements you want to say before you wave the audience goodbye?
Sure. My last statement is a call to action. We need the youth. We need you all to step up and help the next generation. That's how we pay it forward. And I hope you guys would join me at BrainSTEMology to make that happen.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Well, that sounds good. We want to thank you all so much for being here, you guys. Hope you all have a good night. And thank you, Taj. Thank you.